Welcome to Amazing Indiana Music Stories.
I had a couple of friends that I hung out with that we decided to play music. We were all sort of just learning to play. One was Jim Koss, and we put together a little band. We called it the Ramblers. It was a trio and then moved into a quartet. And we had this great piano player named Phil Davidian. And I actually am in contact with one of his relatives. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but he was a ripping piano player. And I had this idea. We had some kind of a date to play in this teen club that was up where Keystone and Allisonville Road converge, a little shopping center there, some teen club. And so we took my parents' spinet piano and loaded it on a little flatbed trailer and pulled it through the neighborhoods where we knew people, with Phil pounding out sort of swampy, his piano style, a little bit like Delbert McClinton style piano, you know. And we went through all these neighborhoods, and it was like the Pied Piper. People started following us, riding bikes and cars, and by the time we got to the shopping center, there was, I don't know, there were more people than could fit in the place. They filled the place, and there was another 100 people outside. And one of the people inside was a guy named Bill Overman, who we had never met. And he liked the band. We played. This was not the Boys Next Door yet, but it was turning into the Boys Next Door. And so he liked the band, and we got talking, and we were going to do something together. And then I was sort of a hot rodder, and this friend of mine, this crazy guy named Skeet Bushore, was helping me with my engines. We would build engines in my dad's driveway. We haven't had an engine lift for a while out there. God, the neighbors, they must have hated us. But anyway, Skeet would hold a can of beer and a cigarette and then watch me as I worked and advise me. You know, he said, no, that valve's not going to fire right. You know, you need to. And then JK came over, and we were going to play some music, and Skeet said, well, can I sit in? And we had a little Hammond organ in the studio. My dad had set a room aside for us to practice in. And he said, I don't know, he played pretty good, you know, as well as we did. And so we signed him up, and the Boys Next Door were forming. So I had a pal, Jim Adams, who was not really a musician, but liked music. And I just liked him. I liked his energy. So I said, you're going to be the rhythm guitar player. This is how you form a high school band, you know. We were probably juniors in high school at that time. And then I don't remember how I met Steve Drybread, but he ended up as the bass player. He was already a pretty good bass player. I think he was in another band, and I stole him from another band, as I remember. And he's not around anymore, so he can't call me a liar. And so then we had a band. We had a 5-piece band. There was another guy playing the rhythm guitar for a while, and Bill didn't think he fit in with the band. Bill was, by this time, was full-time we're going to make something out of you guys, manager, you know. And so we changed the other guy for Jim Adams, and then I played the lead guitar and then shared the lead singing with Jim Koss, and some of the other guys would come in and do a song or so. And we had a band, and Bill was pretty good business sense. He had a good idea of how the industry worked, and pretty soon we went down to, I think it was Jan Eden's studio downtown Indianapolis, and recorded our first record with some hot rod song. I don't remember anything about it now. I'd probably be embarrassed. But anyway, I was coming home from school, and I don't know what label it was on. It was on some label, maybe some Chicago label, but Bill did all the business of the band. I would pick up my friends. I had an old 54 Mercury, and we'd pick up my friends on the way to school, and we'd listen to the radio, and all of a sudden that song came on the radio, and we just, whoa, you know, there's no feeling like that. To hear your song, you know, you're 16, 17 years old, and hear your song on the radio, so we pulled over and listened to the whole thing, and that's pretty much the story of how it got going. It went on from there with, we ended up after that with Mercury Records in Chicago, and which was a mob label, and I probably shouldn't say that, should I?
You can say that.
You can say that now? You know, you go to the offices and, oh, you want to see the boss? Well, you know, they're bulges for guns under their shirts, you know, and they changed our name since we were doing car songs. At the time, they changed our name to the Four Wheels, which we were not happy about at all, but it was like, oh, you don't like the name? Oh, okay, well, too bad. You know? And they just did that arbitrarily. And so anyway, we did a couple records for them. Our contract was just a couple singles, something like that. And they did okay. They never paid us any publishing or anything anyway, you know, so it didn't hurt them. They let us out of the contract. And then we started dealing with a label in Minnesota. And we also started our own label here in Indianapolis called Bad Records, Busher Adams Dry Bread. Because everything up to then had been K&L Productions, Koss and Lester. And so everybody they wanted their own names in the thing. So Bad Records. And we released a few things on that when we were between labels. And I still have a couple of those, copies of those. That'll be in that box.
Yeah, good. We have some, but we don't have all of them.
Oh, okay. Try the timeline. Then we started dealing with the New York labels. They're more professional. And they got we went with Cameo, and they got us hooked up with the Tokens. If you remember, Hush My Darling, Don't Tell My Darling, Woo!
See You in September.
Yeah. And so we had a lot of fun with them and did several records with them. And they wrote some stuff for us and did some of the original stuff too. And then the timeline is, you know, it's been, 10 years or so at least. We eventually got switched over to Atco Records, Atlantic Records, and they were a very professional label. And they got us Al Cooper as a producer, Dylan's organ player at the time, and he found us some great songs. Those are on that compilation we talked about, and we did some nice things with him, and I hit it off with him. We all hit it off with him pretty well, and he was a good producer. And so we started going in and out of New York to do our records, and then we'd tour, try to promote the record. We had a tour bus. I think somebody told me we were the first Midwestern band to have an actual tour bus.
Well, there's that very famous picture of it parked in front of the Indiana roof.
Indiana roof, yeah. That may be the only picture. After I left the band, they crashed the bus. Jim Adams was driving. And if you knew Jim Adams, you would understand. Yeah, they crashed the bus. He was a wild ass.
So why did you leave the band?
Well, after the record, you know, you have that surge probably from junior in high school, building up through senior year. Then we were out. We started touring around, went all over the country pretty much. And the record sold, but there was never a top 40 hit. So you're never a household word. If a couple of things bubbled under 80, 90, you know, and I don't think there was anything, maybe top 50 at the most.
Not enough money to keep you going, probably.
Exactly, yeah. And so I started making money as a songwriter and a producer, and the boys and I parted. J.K. and Skeet loved R&B. They just loved those Motown bands and wanted to play that kind of music. So we started, and Drybread and I were playing horns, and we'd play our instruments and horns at the same time was kind of a thing. And so we started doing these long medleys of R&B songs, and I didn't sing that. You know, I just didn't have a feel for it. Not that I hated it, it wasn't my thing, you know. So we just had what you call a friendly parting of the ways, and they fired Overman around the time little before the time I left the band, because his concept of the band was with me in the front, and that kind of original song, upbeat rock and roll stuff, and they wanted to go in R&B sort of nightclub kind of stuff, and so I left the band in sometime early in 1967, and I can't tell you exactly when, but then I started playing folk music with Terry Talbot, and then Terry and John and I also played as a trio, a rock trio, for the last 9 or 10 months I was in Indianapolis. That was really fun. Terry and John are gigantic talents.
That led it up to when they got into Sound Unlimited then.
No, they had been in Sound
They already
Unlimited.
been in Sound Unlimited.
Yeah, this is but right before they started Mason Prophet.
Okay.
And shortly after I left in January of 1968, first day of the year. And but Terry and Terry did some kind of a show with Sonny and Cher, and Sonny's music director was named Harold Batiste. He's the father of John Batiste from The Late Show. You know all this stuff.
I know those names.
Yeah. And anyway, he was a New Orleans great jazzer and cool guy. And he invited Terry and I. He liked our songs. He said, well, come to L.A. I'll get you set up and we'll do some stuff. Terry came from this nice religious family, nice upbringing, where I came from a little kind of a lower middle class. I couldn't wait to get out of Indianapolis. You know, California? I'm there, you know. So I took him up on it. Terry was going to go, but then he decided to stay home. So almost exactly when I left, they started Mason Prophet, which did really well. And I fell into this thing of, in L.A., thanks to Harold. He found me a place to live out in Topanga Canyon. He said, you're too much of a hippie to live here in town. He said, I'm going to find you a place out where the hippies and the musicians live, you know. And he got me sessions. I was playing sessions with a lot of real notable people. And when I came to L.A., I brought a 12-string acoustic and a 6-string acoustic, as well as a couple of electrics and amplifiers in the back of my car. And it turned out I was the only guy playing sessions on acoustic guitar for the first couple months, maybe 6 months. But then, of course, Glenn Campbell was playing sessions. There were guys much better players than me playing. And they go, oh, this kid with the acoustics making a lot of money. I was doing 2 sessions a day for quite a while. And so they all went out and got acoustic guitars. And pretty soon I was like the 5th call player instead of the guy, you know.
Can you remember some of the names that you played with?
John Phillips, the Mamas and Papas.
Yeah.
We did recordings in he had a studio in the attic of his house in Bel Air. Zoot Money, British singer-songwriter. Hilton Valentine from the Animals. Right. Ironically, 30 years later, Eric Burden moved in about a mile from me in Joshua Tree, and then worked in my studio a lot, using me and my friends as session musicians. And he moved away 10 years ago, but it's an interesting thing, because I never met him. I met several of the guys in his band and his producers and stuff, but I never met Eric himself. Monster singer.
Yes.
You record him, I don't know if you like the technical stuff, but from an engineer standpoint, you record him like an opera singer. Mm-hmm. I had an old 60s model U87, great mic, but you a regular singer, you put it like this. Eric, you put it 6 feet away. and like you would with a soprano opera singer, you know. And if you put it any closer, he'd blow the diaphragm out of it, you know. And
one of the things, and this is not about me, but one of my favorite memories of Ed Sullivan was seeing that band play.
Yeah.
Also the Rising Sun.
Oh yeah.
Still, when I watch that, I get chills.
Yeah.
The young guy, when like 18 years old,
Yeah.
got this voice that nobody else.
Little bandy rooster.
Yeah.
He's only like 5 feet tall.
Tiny. Yeah.
Yeah. And he, in fact, he was over at our house we have times when we have jam sessions with musicians at our house, and he was over. I had just learned the Randy Newman song, Short People.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought about him being short because he's a gigantic personality, you know. And I started playing that song, and he goes, "Oh no, he's not that song." So, because I never thought of him as short, and I never knew he had a thing about it. You know, it's funny. But anyway, I haven't had contact with him now for probably 5 years, and he married a younger girl who was a lawyer, and she kind of took over his career. He's been doing okay. Several of my friends play in his touring bands when he plays mostly overseas. But once in a blue moon, he plays in the country, and several of my friends will be in his band off and on.
Did you ever do anything more with any of the Boys Next Door guys?
Well, Skeet and I have stayed in touch. We haven't. We did a couple reunion concerts. We felt like by the third time we felt like we'd milked the franchise. You know.
Play that 2005 Garage reunion at the Vogue.
No, I missed. I couldn't make that one. I always try to make things here because I love the town, and I've got more friends here than I do in California. My friends in California are more like associates, business, you know, and they're friends, but they're not the kind of people you hang out with and knew you when you were 12 years old, you know, and got drunk with you in high school, you know.
So how often do you get back to Indianapolis?
Well, I used to try to get back once or twice a year, but it's been since the plague I have not been back. It was 2018 or 2019 the last time I was here. But I'm going to come back more regularly now. My brother owns a house here. I have a place to stay. He won't let me drive his car, so I have to rent a car. But, you know, he knows me too well, you know.
Tell me about the progression from the Topanga Canyon sessions times to more modern times.
Okay, well, I continued playing music on a smaller scale in California with bands, and we had some big time management. I was under Stigwood Fitzpatrick organization, and who didn't really help me. I liked both of them okay. I really can't tell you the stories. It's not public kind of some of the stories. Privately, I could tell you some real interesting stories about LA in the late 60s, but I don't want it recorded, you know. But at a certain point, I got, my girlfriend, now wife of many years, we got pregnant, and I decided I didn't want to live in LA. Even in Topanga Canyon, it was a hubbub, because I was having to go into town to work, and it was stressful. And in LA, there's not very many places to play, especially in the 60s. You could play in the big recording sessions and big studios or the Hollywood Bowl, but there wasn't any neighborhood pub to play. You know, there's just no gigs.
Weird.
Yeah. It's sort of, Nashville's kind of like that. Yeah. You know, there's no gigs where just a working musician can make a day-to-day living. You have to either be on top or have a day job, you know. So anyway, so we left LA and went to Joshua Tree, thinking we'd stay there. We had some friends there. We'd stay a month or two until we decided where we wanted to go. We ended up, well, we're still there, you know. But I did do a hiatus from Joshua Tree. Skeet brought me to LA to work with him in the Jingle Company, production company, and I was here for 6 years. And we had a farm out in Westfield, really nice place. It's now completely gone. we drove out there. A couple of my sons were in town. I have 5 sons, and we drove out there. There was one tree that might have been in our front yard in the day, but the road, everything was
Everything's
different.
different.
Yeah. So it goes.
Yeah.
And
Tell
but
me about the Jingle Company.
well, the Jingle Company was very successful. Skeet was a hugely talented writer and producer, and also this great gregarious character that could romance the clients. And he very quickly learned to put me in the back room writing and not let me talk to the clients. Because my ideas were a little bit too, he liked my stuff, but he didn't want me talking to the clients because he thought I was too left field for them. He'd incorporate my ideas,
Right.
but if I talked to the client, who is that guy? You know, kind of thing. So we had that going with this.
Who were some of the clients you remember doing jingles for?
Oh, Coachman Motorhomes. We did a McDonald's spot. I was going to say Tumwater. I did to regress a second. I did in L.A. after I washed out as an acoustic guitar player. When all the great guitar players got acoustics, I became a session singer because I'm a good reader and I can sing without vibrato. And so I got into the session singing scene, joined the AFTRA, the Singers Union. And so I made a living for a couple of years just doing that, which is a piece of cake. You know, you go in, they hand you a piece of music, you sing it, walk out in a half hour with a couple $100 if the union gets you paid, you know, which is not a done deal all the time. And but anyway, Skeet, we did a lot of, over 3 or 4 years, we did a lot of real interesting stuff. And I'd had a background in college, a couple of years of theory and harmony and writing for orchestra. I wanted to exercise that, so I got to write charts for, we didn't have symphonies, of course, but, you know, 10, 12-piece, we'd hire guys from the symphony, 10 or 12-piece orchestras, and I got to write the things and transpose all the parts. You couldn't do that on computer then. You know, if you have an English horn, you have to learn how to write in that key, you know.
Did you record any of that?
Oh, yeah. It was all stuff that they paid us to do, so it's all, Skeet would have a lot of it. I have some, you know. But it was a great time. Skeet and I just get along famously. But then that business started to flag a little bit, and I started working with local bands. I worked with a band called The Late Show, and a very good band, sort of, what do you call, basic.
Yeah, power pop is what they
Yeah,
call it.
power pop,
Yeah.
they called it, yeah. And I played with them, but there was the stuff I wrote, they did a lot of my songs, but it was not exactly the kind of stuff they did. They were stretching a little bit my way, and I stretched their way to do their kind of stuff, a little more pop than I was. I was always on the, you know, outside edge a little bit. And we were playing a place in Cincinnati, and this couple came in that later I found was the leader of a band called Wheels in Cincinnati, the band in Cincinnati, and absolutely smoking great band. I mean, everybody in that band was a virtuoso. And I always figure if I'm the worst player in the band, it's a pretty good benchmark. You know, if everybody, you know, if I'm the best player in a band, you may have problems, you know. I mean, we can get through a show, you know, but it's not going to be world class, you know. But these guys were killer. They had just gotten off the Little Feat Bonnie Raitt tour. And it was about the time Lowell George died. So we were interacting with the Little Feat guys, and Paul Barrere played with us a lot, who we became good friends, and he was a good guy.
Wheels never really took off. I mean, they had one album as far as I know.
And yeah, we were doing. I mean, we were playing these 1,000 to 3,000 seat halls, you know, and sometimes with the Little Feat guys, sometimes just by ourselves. But the record, it was a Cincinnati record company we were with, and you probably know more about it than me. I wasn't involved in the business, but they went under, and they took probably all our albums went. We had a little handful. It was a 12-inch vinyl, and everything else went in the dumpster. There was no distribution. It was like it just killed it. So,
and it's kind of hard album to find now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean it's not a real valuable. But
yeah, well, Wheeler, the leader of the band, has re-released the albums as digital things, so it's out there now. And some videos of our live shows too. I mean, it was a great band. It was the best band I have ever played in, and I played keyboards and guitar, so I had to spend weeks learning their book, and it was right up my alley though, just funky, slightly southern rock, and so I learned it to become an acceptable keyboard player. I could hardly pass my keyboard classes in college, you know? But here I am playing in this smoking band, so it's inspired me to learn to play well enough to say hold my own, you know. By no means great, but the band, you know, they carried me, and they did a lot of my songs, and they liked my songs and did great arrangements of them and everything. But when the record company went down, one of the guys in the band was a lawyer, and people had other things that they could do. We were getting close to our 30s, you know, or into 30s maybe. I think I might have been in my middle 30s, and the other guys probably were around that age. And they said, oh, wait, we got to go to work. We got to get jobs, you know. Because we had three guys, a big truck, and three guys would take our big sound system and set up the stage in these places, and you know, we had our own engineer, and then we'd come in and play the show. But by the time the smoke cleared, the band would get $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. I'd come home with $200, you know. Okay. And so it was difficult for me too. And my family was starting to grow. I had 3 kids by that time, and so although I wouldn't have folded it. I mean, I loved the band, but the writing was on the wall, you know. And I'm sure they continued along for another year or so. I'm sure they got a much better keyboard player. There was a guy named Casey McEwen in Cincinnati that was a rockin' great keyboard player. I think he joined the band when I left. So that was an upgrade. But then they didn't have my songs and whatever my voice added, you know. But anyway, still good.
On that album, you're on the Wheel.
Yeah. I'm on the second one. The first one I wasn't on. It was before.
Oh, I didn't know there were 2.
Yeah, they had one. They had just finished one when I joined the band, and it's the one, 4 of them standing in front of some kind of a storefront in Cincinnati, and the second one was a road scene, sort of like something out of Hotel California or something like that, and that's the one I'm on. It has a couple of my songs on it too, I think, as I remember. This is ancient history. Okay, after Wheels, we had the farm up in Westfield, and I would commute to Cincinnati, and we would tour out of Cincinnati, just into 3 or 4 states, like the Boys Next Door. And the band didn't fold because of low audience participation or bad vibes or anything. It just was like, okay, well,
time to grow up.
We've done all we can, you know. I need to go to work. Yeah. And so I went back to California with the family, and we immediately settled right into Joshua Tree. From there, we've been in Joshua Tree ever since, and that was 1982. And I bought some land. I had just a little bit of a nest egg, you know, and I bought some land. But it was really good to get out of rock and roll, because I was I don't know how appropriate this is for this, but I was my health wasn't good. I was, you know, drinking quite a bit of whiskey, and I just always had a taste for Kentucky whiskey, Kentucky bourbon especially, and then the managers always had plenty of cocaine, you know, so which you can drink a lot of whiskey and still play if you have enough cocaine.
Yeah.
They balance each other, you know. And then the audiences got on. I had a keyboard in front of me most of the time. They got on the fact that I was a whiskey drinker, and the fans would line up shots for me on the piano. I'd end the evening with 12 shots of whiskey, and you know, and I'd try to finish them, you know. But I realized at a certain point, I was drinking a pint or so every night, you know. And we'd play 4 or 5 nights, you know, and I'd just be shit-faced. I could play because no matter how shit-faced you are, a hit or two of cocaine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here I am. I can do this, you know. But anyway, I realized at that time that I was slowly killing myself. Here I was, middle 30s, and health was bad. Had, you know, flu and cold, lung infections all the time, and I'm thinking, I got 3 kids. At the time, I had a 4th kid on the way, and I just thought, I better get out of this before I kill myself. So at that point, I gave up being a rock and roll star, and it was just a great weight off my shoulders, you know. No offense to all that earlier stuff and the people that tried to help me. You know, ego just kind of dissolves and floats into a puddle. I kept playing. I always played, but I would start little groups, little small groups, and we'd play local places. And I had places that played. I had bands that played in, you know, music festivals and that sort of thing. I started a pretty good bluegrass band in Joshua Tree. We did real well for a long time, and then when the plague came along, that was called Shadow Mountain Band because we lived near Shadow Mountain in Joshua Tree, and Shadow Mountain Road bordered our property, and the plague came along, and that we were the house band in this great place called Pappy and Harriet's. It's a household word in the Southwest. It's kind of the cowboy biker roadhouse, you know, and they used to have a thing where you could tie up your horse in front, you know, and but anyway, so we were the bluegrass band that played every Saturday, and then later in the evening they'd have some name band come in. I worked with Leon Russell. McCartney played there once with his band. We weren't on that show, but Ralph Stanley, you know, I'm just,
Yeah.
I actually did the house mix for Ralph Stanley. I shook his hand and you know, Ralph Stanley. By the way, if you ever get a chance to read his autobiography, it is the best book I've ever read if you're into music.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything, he's got everything, good and bad.
Yeah.
No holds barred.
Yeah.
And great book. But anyway, the long story short, the plague came, and I lost one of the key members of the band, our baritone, beautiful singer named Johnny Ray Martin. He died, and it took a lot of the wind out of the sails of the band, which had been very busy up until the plague. Everything shut down then. And we started up the band. One of my old mando players came back to the band after Johnny Ray died, and we got it going, and we played another couple years. But it wasn't the same. You know, it wasn't the original band. My wife had sung with the band also, doing those high tenor parts. And then when she left, I had to learn to do those Ralph Stanley parts, you know. Whew. I'm not a real tenor, you know. So that was, but anyway, long story short, we kind of let the band still exists, and we still do a concert once in a blue moon. We're supposed to play something in September, some festival somewhere. Yeah. It's on the book. So, but when a Shadow Mountain Band show comes up now, I get on the phone or make some texts and get a hold of the people. There's a guy in Santa Cruz and, you know, a guy in Palm Springs, and our fiddle player, he's out of the, I still work with him on a daily basis practically, Bobby Fergo. He's out of the Leonard Cohen band. He was Leonard Cohen's fiddler. And so I just, everybody, hey, there's a Shadow Mountain Band gig. Let's get together. And we don't have to rehearse. We played 15 years together. So all I do is just shout out a song, and usually the wrong key, and then we start playing, find out it's the wrong key, and start again. But it's hillbilly music, you know. Nobody gives a crap, and so we still have a great time. But technically there is not an official weekly Shadow Mountain band anymore. But I play with Bobby and another great keyboard player who I met here named Jeff Lance, who was with the band they called Light. And I was actually a founding member of that band, but I left very early. A more creative dissonance, you know. Good friends, but different grooves. And so Jeff lives right near me in Joshua Tree now. We play often together. And he is the best keyboard player I've ever worked with. One of the best I've ever heard. You know, just phenomenal. Just the luck of these people, Bobby and Jeff and the guys from the band, converging around me in Joshua Tree and having that 15 years or so of being the weekly things and then playing. We played some pretty big shows. So Joshua Tree is just a little podunk village, 5,000 people, you know, and just having this talent converge. I mean, it's the level of talent that was in L.A. when I moved there. You know, I mean, it's high-level talent in this little podunk town. Everybody is kind of maybe like me, washed out of the big time. You know, ended up in a little podunk town, but still want to play. You know, I don't know what the rule is for that, but.
Well, it's your recreational league.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
Instead of trying to make a living doing this.
Exactly.
You get to do
exactly.
it for fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of bands do that. A lot of, you know, the Late Show, for example.
Yeah, they still play, don't they?
I don't know if they're still playing, but they took a long hiatus for family reasons. And they all got back together, in the 90s maybe? And
I remember Don was really good pal,
Yeah.
and he raised a couple of girls.
Yeah.
I saw pictures. I've fallen out of contact with all those guys, but they were great. Good band.
Very close with the main family. Still am.
Oh yeah. Well, give them my regards.
Kathleen, died.
No.
Yeah, she died right after COVID.
Oh man, no, I
It wasn't
didn't.
COVID, but right after.
I should keep better.
But I see Liz
you know.
and I see Don, not as much. I see Liz pretty frequently.
Well, give them my regards.
I will definitely.
Yeah, good people.
Yeah, lovely.
Don, I learned a lot from playing with Don. He and I had a great vibe on stage. Just two peas in a pod. You know, we played so close together. Mark was a great guitar player.
Mark is not well.
Yeah, well, he was not even as well as us then.
Really?
Yeah.
Really, he's not well at all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He was a good guy.
We're going to try to talk to him.
I'm still in touch with his brother occasionally.
Joe.
Yeah. Joe played drums. We had drummer problems off and on, and I won't get into that. But Joe would play.
Doesn't every band have drummer problems?
I get. Being a drummer is a problem. You know. I play my own drums in the studio now, but this is giving up my secrets. But I have a drum kit, but I don't play them all at the same time. If I had to play the whole kit on stage, I would humiliate myself totally. But I can. In the studio now, I can do things at a time. I play kick and snare, you know, do the tom fills later, you know, and.
Do you do a lot of home recording now?
Well, I have a studio. It's more than a home studio. It's pretty good studio, but we don't have multi-track. We had a 24-track for a while, and now I'm pretty much in the box.
Yeah.
I still have reel-to-reel, an old Otari that I've kept up to spec. And then I have the older stuff, so I can play old reel-to-reels and old cassettes and a couple of ADATs just in case. Yeah. I don't sell the stuff. When it gets old, I just put it in the shed. Yeah. And I don't have the heart to sell it. And you need it sometimes. People bring me these little reel-to-reels from 1950. I can play those.
Oh, that's great.
You know. So, but primarily I use Logic and have a bunch of really good preamps. I was telling Tim, when you record digitally, it's a whole different thing. You have to get everything sounding good before it goes into the digital realm. And then you can improve it, you can work with it, but if you're using cheap stuff on the outside and it goes in sounding bad, you can't fix it. It always sounds digital. But if you use the right stuff, and I was mentored by some of the great recording engineers. Michael Farrow is my main mentor and teacher, Grammy, Oscar-winning guy, and so I've set up, Neve and Summit preamps and universal audio compressors and all this great analog tube stuff, great old mics, and so you get things sounding good. Well, you've heard some of my recent recordings. Well, they sound about as good as anything, I can't hear something else and go, hey, that's better than I can do, Go, well, that's good, but I could do just as good, So you get it good outside. This is for all the young recording engineers. You put your money outside the computer. You're going to have to get a new computer every 3 years anyway. Get the best interface you can afford and the best preamps and that stuff, because the preamps and all that, the stuff I bought, some of it was $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 20 years ago. It's worth more now. Where a computer from 20 years ago, you have to pay them to haul it away, And so get it sounding good mics, get the mic in the right place, and use the right mic for the purpose, and get it sounding good before it goes digital. Then you're home free after that. If you don't do that, it's always going to sound cheesy. Take it for what it's worth. That's my opinion.
What do you think about the music industry of today?
I will spare you the expletives. I just wrote some stuff to a friend about it. I continue to make records because I love to do it, and I have a little following of, a handful of people that listen to my stuff and, come to see me when I play, and it's enough to make a living. And by no means anything like stardom, which is fine. And so I make these records, but I have given up promoting. I refuse to spend my days online trying to promote my 6-7 minute songs with long jams. And I just like to indulge myself in making nice records for my friends, and screw the people that have 15-second attention spans and that you have to hit the whole song. You have to say the whole thing in a few seconds, and then make videos that have a technical event every 2 seconds so they don't get bored. At this stage, I don't have time for that. I want to make music. I don't want to spend my time trying to cater to people that have this new kind of attention span. I don't know if they would like my stuff anyway. It seems like if you put them on a desert island with nothing but stuff me and people my age do, they might wake up to it, But there's virtually no way I can see to break into it without, I could hire somebody to do the internet. I've thought about that, just putting somebody on a salary, and say, sit at this computer and market this stuff, But it would take all the money that my catalog makes.
Right. Well, I think that today the problem is it's the barrier to entry to making music is so low that it's become a democratization in
Right.
a way. Anybody can make music.
Right.
There's no studios that you have to afford. There's no instruments are cheaper. Everything is possible, whether you're talented or not. And so there's no curation because radio stations just play old music for the most part.
Right.
So there's no way to know. I think a lot of people try to use Spotify and Apple Music just to find out if there's something out there they should pay attention to.
Yeah.
But even that's hard.
Yeah.
And as a fellow boomer, same problem.
Yeah, man.
I've got a few bands that I really like, but I expect there's a bunch more that I would like, but I don't know about.
Right.
I have no way of knowing.
Right. Yeah, you have to, that's what you guys are doing that's so valuable, is preserving this stuff, and
Yeah.
you can spread the word about it, you know. And the new talent, you know, since you don't have to be able to play in time, sing in tune, write a song, produce a record now, all you need to do is tell the computer what kind of song you want, what the title is, and who you want it to sound like, and here's your record, you know. And I have some stories about that I won't get into. People, songwriter friends sending me, I told Tim about some of that. But that's, you know, that's not being a musician.
Right.
I mean, that it's something.
Yeah.
It's something, but it's not being an artist.
It's not the same.
It's not being an artist. And I'm not interested. I mean, even I do, like my distributor puts stuff on I have a, you know, Apple Music and Spotify and everything, but they don't get that many hits. Like my tracks might get 5,000 to 10,000 hits,
Which is a lot, really.
It's a lot when you think about it.
Dropping the bucket.
But it's not enough to make any money.
You'll make 7 cents.
I've got a check on my wall for 1 cent. And just the fact that they spent 40 cents or whatever it is to send me a check for 1 cent impressed me, you know. And but I do. My catalog makes money. I always brag that my 50 years of songwriting, I get enough residuals and publishing money every month to buy a nice dinner for 4.
Oh,
You know, not fast food though. You know, a restaurant with a tablecloth. You know, and so that's, and the younger I do that kind of a self-effacing. The younger musicians go, "Wow, that's good money." You know.
yeah. Well, let's reminisce a little bit about Boys Next Door.
Okay.
So you guys got compared to the Beach Boys a lot. How did you feel about that?
Well, I was ambivalent toward it. A couple of the guys in the band were just idolized the Beach Boys,
Mm-hmm.
and we got to play quite a bit with them.
Did you?
Yeah, and then out in L.A., I interacted with Dennis quite a bit as a session musician, and so I got to know Dennis and Carl pretty well. Carl was a really nice guy. Dennis was was a drummer.
Yeah.
You know, that's all you need to know.
You didn't play on his album, did you?
No. But I jammed with him, and we hung out at his house. He had a nice house in the Palisades. And he was, my girlfriend at the time was friends with him. And so and he died before too long, you know, it was strange. But I did meet Brian. Brian was never on any of the gigs we played with the Beach Boys. I guess he was too unstable. One time they had Bruce Johnston from, what band was he? Some popular...
Doobie Brothers, wasn't it? No, that was Tom Johnston.
Yeah, no, it was earlier than that. One of those Beach Boys emulation. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he played the bass and sang the Brian Wilson's parts, and was very good. And then on another tour, Glenn Campbell did it.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, Glenn Campbell. He's the reason I couldn't make a living after 6 months in L.A. as a guitar player. You know, I mean, he's a monster.
Yeah.
He was. I couldn't believe how great he was at everything. You know, I'm sure you throw the guy a 2x4 and he'd play better music on it than anybody ever heard. Anyway, so I was a little ambivalent about it, but the boys, the one guy that was really a idolizer of the Beach Boys, he dressed us in striped shirts like the Beach Boys and in that vibe, and it was okay. I mean, the kids loved it, you know, and it didn't detract from what I wanted to do with the band. So I did remember one concert we did. We opened for the Beach Boys, and we came into the dressing room, and Dennis said, "Oh my God," he said, "another set of Beach Boys." And I kind of, is there a corner I can creep into? And maybe nobody else noticed that, but I thought, yeah, I didn't apologize, but I felt, you know.
Well, it's interesting, when you think about Indiana, you had the Boys Next Door, which got compared to the Beach Boys. Then you had the Rivieras doing a surf song, California Sun, up in South Bend or Ford or wherever. Here we are in landlocked Indiana.
Right.
And you got beach music coming out of Indiana that made national waves. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah. And then I got to LA and I got in a classical rock band it was called Dove, and then it was Atlantic Records that we were under with the Stigwood Fitzpatrick organization. And we did this album, the precursor to Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all that. Fantastic. I mean, the music was, the leader of the band was a classically trained piano player. You know, and the music was unbelievably intricate, hard to play. Our first gig was at the Hollywood Bowl. That was the only gig. Luckily, it was canceled at the last minute. I thought, phew, none of the people but me had ever been on a stage, you know.
Are there recordings?
Yeah, there was an album came out. Decca picked up the album. Atlantic didn't want it. The only song they wanted was the one that I wrote. And so I had some business with George Stigwood, who liked that one song. Later on, it was another story. But he came to LA to listen to the album. And listen to the whole thing. And the one song he kind of, but he didn't like the album. So they panned the album. And I don't remember if they left my song. I think they left my song on it. But they took the vocals that I did off, had somebody else do. And they even took my picture off. They had the picture redone with another guy.
Wow. A lot of that stuff happened.
Yeah. Well, it was okay. The record didn't sell. I didn't hurt me.
Right.
So it came out on Decca, and Decca changed the name of the group to Pigeon.
Oh, I know about that.
Oh, okay. The album cover was a pigeon and a sandwich.
Yeah.
It was kind of an embarrassment. But that was the music. I played on all those tracks, and I can't tell you without seeing the album if they left. I don't remember if they left my track on it. I had a couple vinyl copies which have eluded me over the days. I think I have a reel-to-reel tape of the project somewhere, but it might not be a final.
It's not a hard album to find.
Oh.
It's not rare.
Oh, okay.
Well, it might be rare, but it's not in high demand, so it's findable.
Yeah.
I don't have a copy, but do you know about Discogs?
Oh, yeah.
You could find the cover and all the information on Discogs.
Well, there's a really interesting story about that band, because it was to my knowledge, the first classical rock band. The leader of the band played a harpsichord on most of the tracks, you know, and but they were rock drums, and
right.
I played bass and guitar, I think, as I remember, and the whole band, the play Hair came to do their run up to their big production in LA at the Aquarius Theater, which was just a few miles up the road from where I lived at Laurel Canyon. So the whole band, the drummer and I became part of the rehearsal band for the stage production, and they offered us all parts in the play, and the leader of the band, a guy who used the pseudonym of Jobriath Salisbury, who became just plain Joe Briath later, and had a sort of anthem rock career, short. He was an early AIDS victim in New York. But the girl singer and him joined the cast, and I'd never been on stage in a play. I had no idea of how you do that, and I turned them down. I played for the rehearsal band for a while, played bass in the rehearsal band, and then the play went on. It was a big hit in L.A., and they moved to New York, and the band moved to New York. I stayed in L.A. because my manager was still getting me sessions, and I was arranging songs for different people, and so L.A. was pretty good for me. It was pretty good. But we left L.A. in sometime in 71, 72, and because we didn't want to raise a family. We were starting our family and didn't want to raise a family in that hubbub. And even though Topanga Canyon wasn't as much of a hubbub as downtown, but I was still having to go in
Yeah.
and everything. But I loved L.A. I still go in. I have one of my sons lives in L.A. He works for the Simpsons TV show. He's an animator.
Oh, wow.
And so I go in, but I try to go in the middle of the night
Yeah.
and then leave when there's no traffic, you know. I no longer have the temperament to sit.
Sure. Did you stay in touch with Bill Overman at all?
I have off and on. I'm trying to get a hold of him here. I want to try to meet with him while I'm here. I consider him a brilliant manager. He had a hard edge that some people didn't like him, but I mean,
you get business done though sometimes.
yeah. I mean, once I got to L.A. and dealing with Stigwood and those guys, they're a lot more. If you think Bill Overman is hard edged, my God, you know, I consider him as instrumental as anybody else in my music career. He would record the Boys Next Door shows, and he had it all set. I was the front and sang and wrote a lot of the songs, some with J.K. and some by myself. And Bill would make me sit in the dressing room and listen to those recordings, or even look at films. Mm. Everybody else would be out partying, and I'd be looking. I'd go, "Oh my God! Oh, that's so terrible!"
Right?
You know,
you missed that block.
That's right. And so that I feel like that experience with Bill, he thought I was going to be what Bruce Springsteen turned out to be, you know, and he stuck with it. And I didn't quite have the something in my personality to be that aggressive or ambitious, you know. But interestingly enough, I was up for a deal with Columbia at the same time as Bruce Springsteen, and they chose Bruce.
Huh.
Go figure, you know.
They might have chosen wrong.
That's what I thought until I started listening to his music, and I go, "Oh, okay, I get it." Yeah. You know. Oh yeah, it's just been great. And the way it's ended up, I'm still alive, you know, and fairly, you know, I can enjoy my life. I don't have to make a living at music anymore. I've had some other business things that paid off better than music, and life is good. My kids are grown up and they're all successful, and most of them live right around me in our little, we call our compound Lester Flats, okay, in honor of Ralph Stanley and those guys, yeah, you know.